This is where the big boys play, huh? We ain't here to play. At the total combined weight. At the total combined weight of 589 pounds.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, at well over 500 pounds, this is where the big boys play.
All right, welcome to the show, everybody. This is At a Combined Weight. I'm your host, Charlie Dudley, joined, as always, by Robert McElroy.
What's up, Charles?
What's up, man?
So you have fatherly duties tonight with your puppy there with Emma.
Yeah, she's no puppy. She's fucking 5, and she's big as shit. But
well, she's cute as a damn puppy.
Yeah, she's got a tumor on her right front paw that got taken out, so I'm gonna have to go get her here in the next hour or so.
On her goddamn bear claw.
Hopefully she's not too pissed off at me from taking her up there this morning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use them a lot in our marketing. What little bit of marketing we do.
We tweeted out. It was her and Sammy were born like a day or two apart, and we tweeted them out on our Twitter. So I call them the mascots of the show.
Yeah, they definitely are. I love the GIF you sent me.
Oh, of Laparcaing.
Yeah.
I can't wait till we get to La Parka.
What approximate year was that you?
I think it's like 97 or like late 96, 97.
Yeah, we're not far from it.
No, we're getting to the damn. The more and more I look at it, I was like, holy shit, we're in November already.
I know.
We've been doing this since end of May. I mean, we're getting on up there now.
We are. I mean, since I moved into my new place here, we've been doing this. I don't know where the damn time goes. Summer flew by, and here we are. It's supposed to be autumn. It fucking doesn't feel like autumn. It's hotter than blue blazes.
Oh yeah, it's hot as shit, man.
It
like
pisses
70
me
or
off.
80, I think.
Dude, I'm large. I look forward to it cooling off.
Yeah.
This is bullshit.
It
I like
is.
my autumn. I like the cooler weather. I'm tired of sweating. I mean, I'm already large, so the struggle's real. And I'm sick of it, man. And like last Christmas, it was like 80 degrees.
I love how some of these Yankees will complain. It's so hot, so hot. Yeah, try fucking November 3rd and it being like 90 with like 70% humidity.
Oh man, I mean, I deal with people from out of town all the time. They hate it. I don't blame them because I fucking hate it too. I've been living here all my life and I hate it.
2 weeks. November 18th, 1996 is when he debuts. I was so pumped.
Yes. A favorite of the show, that La Parka.
Can't fucking wait.
That's fantastic.
Well, without further ado, let's hop into it. November 4th, 1996, Grand Rapids, Michigan. They have a weird geographical schedule, in my opinion. Like, their route is so bizarre to me. I mean, they go from, where were they last week? Phoenix.
They were, I think they were.
So they've gone from Vegas to Phoenix to Grand Rapids, Michigan. And, I'll be so tempted if I was in charge of a wrestling company, like November, December, January, to stay the fuck out of anywhere Michigan.
No kidding.
They're like, oh, yeah,
No
it's November,
kidding.
we're going to Michigan. Well, fuck you. You could go to Michigan. Why can't we do like it's November, we're going to Daytona. Yes.
or like
Birmingham, Mobile,
Los Angeles. No, let's think bigger here. Let's
well,
go
no,
to
I'm
the
saying
West
I'm
Coast.
just staying along like I-10.
Got it.
I mean,
Well,
because you can't just stay in L.A.
well, no.
You could go from like L.A. to Vegas to Phoenix to some shithole in New Mexico, and then run Texas for 2 weeks, and then I mean, you're just running along the South. Just why not?
Sure. I wonder if
But I
mean,
guess in November you want people, like, it's cold as shit outside. Maybe you say, hey, come see some wrestling, warm up and watch some wrestling.
Yeah, get your hot cocoa and whatnot. No, I wonder if, like, one of the reasons for the crazy schedule is because of the house shows. I mean,
Yeah. But so
maybe the house
I don't think they were
show
running
schedule-
as, like, many house shows as, let's say, I mean, I guess they had to, as far as, like, their territories, because I'd love to kind of look back at their house show schedule and see, like, how bizarre it would be. But
yeah, and also which talents were doing, like, the bulk of the traveling.
it's not your big stars, because everybody was on guaranteed contract, limited dates. So you weren't getting NWO, you were getting La Parka, or you're getting Brad Armstrong and Marcus Alexander Bagwell.
I mean, for that, I wonder if their house shows were even doing all that well. I mean, when we covered the Birmingham Nitro that you and I were both at several weeks, I remember thinking not long ago, well, shit, was I even at a Nitro? Because it felt so house showish with the lack of talent there.
Well, that was because of the Japan deal.
Right.
And I think what's so bizarre to me, I guess, in knowing as much as I know about wrestling now, is how much of WCW's talent was so in and out. You know, like the so-and-so would come in and do a couple shots here, and then they'd be in Mexico, and, like, you know, we talked / bitched about the fact that Rey Mysterio is very rarely on a Nitro the last several weeks leading into the pay-per-view, and he wasn't on this one. So, I mean, it's like, I guess that is the reason why WWE's kind of done things the way that they've done them, in that, you know, they can have all hands on deck.
Yeah.
But, all right, so we're live from Grand Rapids, Michigan. They have the opening with the pyro, and they go straight to Sting, shown in the rafters. And I thought Larry Zbyszko had a good line here. He says he's actually haunting the place like he's the Phantom of the Opera. And I'm going to say some nice things about Larry Zbyszko in this episode, so just go ahead and prepare yourself.
Well, that you would say nice things about anybody or anything pertaining to the product around this time.
No, that's false.
Hey, it's not that damn false. Like, sometimes I'm like, well, fuck, should I be hating this show more than I do?
Yeah.
I actually,
so.
I don't totally bury it. Yeah, bury it somewhat, but yeah, no, go ahead with your compliments of
Well, no,
Zbyszko.
we're not there yet. I just thought
okay.
that he had, like, a good line. You know, usually he's just like, everything he says is just like sexism, racism,
yeah.
this guy's a pansy, he's a sissy. I mean, just, he's not manly. He says it almost every week about somebody. But then they cut away from Sting and show the Giant, Vincent, and DiBiase in the crowd, and then it cuts to commentary. And I had no idea about this. I had no recollection of them doing a women's tournament. None. Zero.
I didn't remember this either, and I was very, very in tune to the product around this point in time. You and I talked, like, in the beginning of this show we've been doing, that we didn't really remember a whole lot of women's wrestling at all.
No, they didn't focus on a lot of women's wrestling in WCW for sure. But they pushed the start of the WCW Ladies Championship is what they said. I think let's call it the Women's Championship. And Bischoff, they announced that Bischoff would not be on the show, which is dropping the seeds for the plant that will be sprouting out, as we'll talk about that a little bit later, as they pushed the whole Bischoff talking to Piper incessantly, and the whole idea was that Bischoff was not on the show because he was in Portland, Oregon, pitching the match of the decade, trying to get Piper signed. And this is a situation where essentially art imitated life in the fact that WCW had been in negotiations with Piper, and they reached a brief negotiation to sign him to the Halloween Havoc appearance. And then they were trying to lengthen his deal so that he could come in, and they set up the match at Starrcade, etc. And we'll talk about that at the end of the show as well. So Bischoff won't be on Nitro because he's trying to get Piper signed to the match of the decade, which they pushed incessantly. What do you think about the Open here? You got a lot going on. Sting, NWO in the crowd, ladies title tournament, match of the decade.
I think the entire product, there's a bit of an uptick here, and with the introduction, I mean, it gets you pretty excited, I suppose, about the match of the decade. I like that they're pushing it as that. We like build-ups to stuff as fans. Two teams having their comeuppance, and then ultimately meeting to see who wins, who is truly the best. And you have that with Hogan and Piper. I bought into it 100% 20 years ago. I thought, damn, that will be the match of the decade. This will be a match between two titans. I was excited. So it's good that they're not only building the match, but they're building just getting his ass signed, Piper.
Yeah. And what's interesting to me is that WCW hit on this and as a good angle, and this angle originally in WWF brought in the big rock and wrestling boom that put WrestleMania on the map and solidified WWF as a wrestling powerhouse. This feud did that. And for guys like me and you, we weren't around for that. So this is our first introduction to the build and the match that would be two of the bigger stars in professional wrestling in history. I mean, especially at this point, you don't have The Rock, you don't have Austin, you don't have CM Punk, you don't have John Cena. None of those guys at this point for the last 10, 15 years, you've had Hogan, Flair, Sting, Piper. Those are your big four, two from each company. So this is kind of laying the foundation for a feud that hardcore older wrestling fans are excited to see because they've seen it before, and younger fans like us are excited to see because, we've heard about it, and you're thinking well, if Hulk Hogan's never pinned him, that's a big fucking deal. Because Hogan pins everybody. I mean, in late 80s, early 90s, Hogan would have gotten heat on Jesus.
It's true,
though.
though.
Seriously. He would have made his babyface comeback and all that. He would have hulked up on God. Decades before Vince McMahon fought God on WWE programming.
Good grief. Yeah, no, it's huge. I love it. I mean, it's totally okay that the first memory I ever have of Rowdy Roddy Piper was when he debuted at Halloween Havoc.
See, that's
okay.
So bizarre to me. That I guess you didn't watch WWF.
You know how I consumed WWF, the WWF product. It was the VHSs from the local video store when they were really local.
But did you not get to see Piper as Piper in WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania 2, WrestleMania 3, 4, 5, 6? I mean,
Not that I
his
recall.
Feud with Bad News Brown, where he paints himself half black. That's one of my earliest memory of Roddy Piper. It was that, him painting himself half black, and him doing commentary at the Survivor Series. Look at the size of that ham hock when he's talking about your boy.
He's talking about my boyfriend. Get
Yeah.
it right. No, look, I knew. I said this on the show when we covered Halloween Havoc. I knew there was a kilted wrestler in WWF, and he came out to bagpipe music. I was familiar with who the man was, and I popped any time a WWF talent debuted at WCW, whether they were to be a part of the NWO or not.
Right.
That really just, the adrenaline flowed well throughout me.
Yeah.
And so I'm totally fine with the fact that that's my first real memory of him.
It just kind of is odd to me that's like your beginning. But I guess, you're younger than me, and like your wrestling fandom doesn't have its like deeper roots as a child, I guess.
Well, it's different than a lot of people. I didn't watch. When I was watching WWF, it was rarely live on TV. Right. Rarely. So.
Well, the show opens with Marcus Alexander Bagwell against Brad Armstrong. Bagwell comes out with Scotty Riggs throughout. I can't stress this enough. Throughout the night, they pushed Piper-Bischoff negotiations, and talking about hearing from Hogan later.
And they're in Portland, Oregon. You got to know that. Ladies and gentlemen, they're in Portland, Oregon. Yeah. It's like, we get it.
Yeah, Portland, Oregon. Did you say Portland, Oregon? So here is where I'm going to talk good about Larry Zbyszko. In this match, I think that, and JBL is the equivalent of Larry Zbyszko. And, yeah, wrap your mind around that for a little bit. Because JBL says some dumb shit and says Michael a lot when he was on Raw with Michael Cole. But now, in this episode, Larry Zbyszko does a good job of pointing out little things about the match itself. He can be really, really good when he talks about wrestling. He talks about the nuances of the hold. He says, for instance, Armstrong is in a head scissors by Bagwell, and he says, well, he doesn't have the head scissors locked in. Armstrong's got it blocked. Just like little things like that I always dug as a kid. And I don't think Zbyszko gets enough credit, and, by and large it's his own fault, because he's calling everybody babies and sissies and not manly, rather than just, talking wrestling.
So often he's putting himself over as being a badass.
Well, he was. In his own right. He main evented a ton of big shows back in the 80s. He had a huge feud with Bruno Sammartino. He was big. He was a big star. And he, was legitimately, a big wrestling star.
Sure, but as a commentary, do you really need to put yourself over as being bigger and badder and manlier than everybody in the room?
Well, he just kind of stole.
I don't know that you need to.
He stole Jesse Ventura's gimmick doing that.
Sure. I think most most commentators who were former wrestlers do a better job on their commentary when they just stick to the technical parts of the match. I remember when I used to listen to Jim Fife call Auburn football. In the early part of his career, he had Charlie Trotman, a former Auburn QB, do the color commentary. Right. They were a great team. You had Jim Fife, with the gold-throated badass that he was, calling the game, telling you what's happening, telling you the story, but then you had Charlie Trotman telling you why you're seeing what you're seeing. And then Stan White did a hell of a job with Jim Fife doing the same thing. With wrestling, it should be no different.
Yeah. And Jerry Lawler did okay doing that, and Jim Ross obviously did a great job of it as well. But It would be nice to hear a little bit more of wrestling commentary from Zbyszko. So, I thought this match was pretty good. Decent fire, pretty good work. Bagwell hit a plancha. And,
I agree.
I thought he
totally
looked good.
Agree. Definitely. I thought both guys looked pretty good in this. A lot of good technical wrestling happening during this. It was very reminiscent of, like, watching a good, like, high school wrestling match. You know?
They did kind of blend in that amateur style, which was nice.
Oh, I thought that was really awesome. You don't see a ton of that with WCW.
No, I mean, until you get into, like, some cruiserweight stuff, if you've got, like, a Malenko, Jericho, Guerrero type match, maybe.
Yeah, you have in the ITP versus OTP here, you have Marcus Bagwell from Atlanta, and you got Brad Armstrong from Marietta. So you got Atlanta well represented in this match.
Definitely. Solid work in this one. Bagwell gets the win with the flying crossbody. A good way to start Nitro. Very refreshing to see a decently worked match. I mean, it didn't go anywhere as far as like a storyline or anything. Just a good match. Up next, DDP, Ice Train. The Outsiders come out to the crowd to quote-unquote support DDP. Commentary's putting over the fact that the NWO is actively recruiting new members and actively recruiting and trying to woo Diamond Dallas Page. So this is an okay match. Ice Train got a ton of offense. I didn't think it was anything special. But then we've got the angle that won't fucking end. The whole Nick Patrick heel referee gimmick. Ice Train pushes DDP, powers him off of him in a cover onto Nick Patrick's back. And then Shivani starts pushing the fact that Nick Patrick's counts are slow. And I didn't think that they were particularly slow, in my opinion. Did you?
I didn't make a whole lot of it.
I didn't think that
really.
they were, like, purposely slow, you know? I mean, he already does the down and he swirls around and does the Hogan to his ear and then hits it anyway. But so the Outsiders come in the ring and attack Ice Train with the tag team titles, and then they disappear, and Patrick's outside of the ring, so he's distracted again, so he draws the ire of Teddy Long again. What did you think of this match and the angle that kind of intertwined itself within this one?
I have both love and hate with this match. I love the fact that you have an angle where the Outsiders are actively recruiting DDP, because who better to get from WCW to NWO than DDP? He's already a heel, and a damn good one, and he wins a lot. I like that aspect of it, but, you know, with Ice Train and Teddy Long and Nick Patrick being involved, you knew there was going to be some bullshit. And so I did not like that part of it at all.
I thought this was. I thought the angle was good, and it's good, logical stuff. If you're trying to recruit somebody, you're going to put your best foot forward in there, a heel, so you're going to try to help them win using heelish tactics. What I did not like is how many times over the span of wrestling in this time period have you seen somebody get hit with the belt one time and that ends the match? You know, the ref's not looking, they get hit with a belt, they're done. Ice Train got hit 3 times. And that some bitch just stood up, no-sold the hell out of it. I thought that was terrible. He's a fucking mid-card job squad guy, like on the precipice of being just enhancement talent. And he can't sell 3 fucking belt hits from the tag team champions? I hated the shit out of that. And I don't care if you mental gymnastics or not, that's fucking terrible.
I can tell from your tone and how you look here via Skype that really, really stuck in your
craw. It bothered the
craw.
shit out of me. I hated it. I hated it. Hated it.
You know what? I tell you what. Let's get back to something that another thing I liked about this was when the Outsiders did interfere and ultimately help DDP win. DDP didn't acknowledge him
because I don't think he knew it. And they did a good job of kind of like
that's
paying
cool
attention to it, and then when he watches it back, he'll see that they helped him.
Yeah, I dig that because in the minds of the fans, I mean, yeah, you have three. Sure, in the minds of the fans, you're just, you're still questioning whether or not he could, in fact, already kind of be in negotiations with NWO, regardless of the fact that the entire broadcast crew, they are just certain that he's in.
They're just
the
saying
NWO.
he's
they're
the type
sold
of
on
guy and all that whole deal. DDP gets the win with a diamond cutter on Ice Train, even though Ice Train refused to sell 3 belt hits. Which, hey, I don't think that I think that he was probably supposed to sell those belt hits, and probably would explain why he had such a short shelf life in WCW, because when you've got 2 fucking stars and you don't sell belt hits from them, your career isn't going to last much longer, buddy. So, up next, Dean Malenko, Scotty Riggs for the Cruiserweight title. Love Scotty Riggs, but what did he do to get a Cruiserweight title? And when we post the show, we'll give him a shout-out for sure. But he hasn't been back very much as, healthy. And he gets a singles title shot, just randomly. But we talked earlier about the seeds being planted with Bischoff. The seeds get planted again here for the possible Buff Bagwell heel turn. 6 is shown in the crowd. A short but pretty good, energetic back-and-forth match between Malenko and Riggs here. Riggs goes for a top rope, either crossbody or a drop kick. You don't really know what he's going to do because Malenko hits the ropes and Riggs falls to the floor. And Bagwell just picks him up and chunks him in there. And Riggs gets rolled up by Malenko. And Riggs looks at Bagwell like, hey, what the fuck, man? I just fell off the ropes and you're going to just chunk me in there and kind of, I had a damn Cruiserweight title shot.
Man, I liked a lot of things about this, dude.
The psychology was good. The match was good. I thought Riggs and Bagwell worked well together in the fact that, Bagwell acted like he just kind of had a brain fart, if you will, and Riggs was like, dude, what the fuck, man?
It was good, and on top of all that, the spot that Riggs had falling off that top rope, I was like, oh, shit. I had to hit the 10-second rewind button on the network. I wanted to get another good little look at that, and also to kind of really, get the full effect of the angle with him, with Bagwell rolling him back in. It made total sense. We see interference a lot from valets or whoever the singles, the tag partner of the guy doing a singles match. This was a unique way to have someone fuck up the match for another guy.
It's very similar to that slow build that WWF did with the heel, the face turn of Virgil. They did such a good job with Virgil being a whipping boy for so many years for the $1 Million Man in WWF, and as he's about to turn babyface and he's just had enough, I think, I don't remember if it was on an episode of Superstars or what, but Virgil does that. He always helps DiBiase, kind of regain his bearings, but he just kind of picks him up and throws him in. That's a good bit of psychology. It's a very passive-aggressive way to turn a guy heel slowly. So, up next, we had Chris Benoit, Hector Guerrero, and good grief woman.
Oh, dude.
Good grief. Just basically just wearing a bra and a cummerbund with a bow tie.
I think of the '90s they called it a bustier, right? Isn't that what the hell that is? The things it was kind of reminiscent of what Selena wore. Like, of course, I really just know Selena from the movie Jennifer Lopez. She played Selena. But yeah, there's a scene. It's just like, no, Mama, it's not a bra, it's a bustier.
Oh, either way, it was.
And I think she's got a bustier. Awesome. Oh, she was hot as a $2 pistol. I even wrote that in my notes. Outside of the little parenthesis, woman looks incredible. That was a part of my notes.
Woman looked amazing.
She was so smoking hot during this match, and good camera angles. Cause she really does know a thing or two about the psychology of wrestling. She doesn't talk. She really is. She doesn't talk a lot, but thank God, I think that's fine.
That's good. Her screams.
She screams.
We get the small little screen on the side that I love from long ago. Wrestling, they rarely do it anymore. The pre-taped promo that they just throw out during the ring or during the match. Jimmy Hart, Kevin Sullivan cut a promo on Benoit. That feud continues. Shivani drops a little hint toward where it's going and kind of a shoot type deal. He says, hey, they focus on woman with a camera, and he said that she's more invested in the feud than expected. Kind of talking about like backstage type shit, kind of intimating that something else is going on, besides Kevin Sullivan and Benoit hating each other because it's Dungeon and Doom, Four Horsemen,
Yeah, taking the kayfabe element out of it, I've wondered lately if I'm Kevin Sullivan, how many mixed emotions I have. Like, on one hand, you had yourself a beautiful woman that I've no doubt you cared for. She's now seeing someone else, and you're feuding with that guy, but it creates for good stuff. So there's a part of you that knows that it's to steal one of Triple H's lines. It's best for business.
Kevin Sullivan's booking the product at this point. So,
exactly.
I mean, that makes it even tougher. I mean, it's a very, very intricate, weird, fascinating situation for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, I can remember in college, Auburn was a large university, but a small town ultimately. When you stop seeing somebody and you got to see that person around, it sucks. And you see them going to class, or in my case, like for a play I was in once, someone I had to stop seeing was like a stagehand. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
really?
It's not easy.
Really?
Not easy.
But you got to carry on. You got to carry on with your business. Right. You got to deal.
So yeah, I mean it's a very, very fascinating situation for sure. This match was just kind of a drop back to push the little Eddie Benoit feud they've got going here. Guerrero works Benoit's injured shoulder. That was a pretty solid match for Hector Guerrero being 105 years old, and he works well for being 105.
He works very well. Looks to be in pretty good shape. And no doubt. I mean, I enjoyed this match a lot.
Involved,
I really liked it.
Allows Benoit to roll Hector up, get some more heat on Benoit and the Horsemen. And then a segment that I hated. They recap the whole deal between the Giant and Jeff Jarrett, and they show the Giant's entire promo from the week before. And it was terrible last week, and it's even more terrible this week because it's coming. And then you have the interview segment where Tenay is with the Horseman and Jeff Jarrett, and I fucking love this. Because Jarrett steps in, and he's like, I'm the lead Horseman, and Monko's like, the fuck you are, buddy. Benoit's like kind of shoves him out of the way, takes the mic away, and they're like, listen, douche, move out of the way. Horsemen are going to handle horseman business. You're not just going to come off the bench and be the guy.
Oh, it was good, man.
I loved it. And once they left the interview area with Tenay, I just checked out. Because I didn't want to. And Jarrett, hey, to his credit, he didn't, he didn't do any of that.
He wasn't Big Willie
No,
style,
he wasn't.
thank God.
He wasn't. But he did continue his promo, and they cut away to Sting. And Jarrett is just very Hulk Hogan-esque in his rambling. He starts talking about the Nasty Boys and Piper and Sting, who need to see Piper in the ring to see if he still has it. I still have it. Ric Flair thinks I have it. I should be leading WCW. I'm a natural leader, but will y'all let me lead? It's like, what? It's like you said, basically, I'm better than all of these people. This is why I should be in charge of WCW against NWO. And then he tries to add this like humility at the end. It didn't make any sense.
No, it didn't.
So
No,
I will
it didn't.
continue to crap on
like
Jeff Jarrett. Thumbs down, City.
Yeah. No, it wasn't good at all. He did the same thing last week when he did this gimmick of not letting them go off the air because they're always about to go to commercial when he's cutting these long promos, and he's like, no, don't cut away yet. I'm still trying to put myself over here. It wasn't any good, man. It just went on and on and on. If you have to talk about yourself that much in real life or in an angle, it's not going to get up. I mean, wrestlers that talk about themselves constantly, a la Hogan, they're heels. They're not likable people.
And that's kind of where Jarrett ends up. He's never, in my opinion, he's never been a likable babyface. And if he ever was, it was because he did heelish things. And a babyface, he did heelish things to other heels that were more heelish than he was. That was his only like babyface pop that he would ever get in any kind of WCW, WWF, TNA, anything.
Well, speaking of pop, the only time I pop with him these days when we're watching these episodes of Nitro is when I hear his entrance music.
I hate every ounce of his existence on these programs. So.
Well, it's a lot of good
The WCW Ladies Title Tournament begins here. We have Rina Ibuki versus Medusa. And Rina is Akira Hokuto, who is an All-Japan CMLL star. Great Japanese wrestler. And I loved the work here in the short time that they got. And I love the fact that Ibuki was biting Medusa's hands and feet. Just like, fuck it, I'm biting you.
Fantastic.
You know? Like, fuck this. I'm holding on. I'll have you in a hold. And I'm wrenching your arm, but I'm also going to bite your fingers to make it hurt even worse. It's just like little things.
So good.
That, like, and her biting at their feet was awesome too, because she doesn't wear wrestling boots. She's wearing like regular shoes. So it's not like your feet are protected from like a foot stomp or Japanese biting.
Or a chair or any foreign object. It makes total sense. It makes total sense, man. I really liked the heelish stuff there, the biting and all that. I mean, she obviously knows her psychology, man, and I thought it was really good stuff. Medusa didn't get a lot of offense, but that's okay. She was getting, bitten and getting the hell beat out of her. And the part of Medusa's body that was being worked by Reyna was, other than her feet and hands, her throat. How heelish. I'm going to work your throat where you are so vulnerable and I can kill you. Thought it was good stuff there, but I'm not going to lie. At the top of the match, when I heard the Japanese music, I was really hoping it was Malia Osaka.
I'm sure we'll see her in this tournament going forward.
We by God better. I hope we do. I'm as smitten over her as I am any like female around that's surrounding the product around this time period.
Minus woman.
I think she's so hot. Well, yeah, but I mean, I see a lot of women. Malia Osaka, it's like
Bigfoot.
It's the absence making my heart grow fonder.
So then during the match, we see Chigusa Nagayo, who is Zero, who is the reason that all of these Japanese women are involved in the company at this point. She founded a women's organization in Japan, Gaia, Gaea. So that's all of these women that wrestle in Japan. That's who is in charge of them. So Zero comes out looking kind of like biker, tattooed, very masculine and angry looking, well, let's say. And she comes out with Sonny Ono. They're talking shit because that's Zero's going to face the winner of these two women. Medusa gets a win with the German suplex and a bridge, so we're going to see Medusa and Zero. That might not be on Nitro, but it may be on Saturday night, but we'll see that going forward. Up next, M. Wall Street, your boy, against Chris Jericho. And the commentary's pushing World War III, the 60-man, 3-ring battle royal where the winner gets a title shot at against Hogan. I thought that this Wall Street Jericho match was just okay. Wall Street had most of the offense. Jericho gets the win with the roll-up. Kind of it was a nothing match as much as a Chris Jericho match can be a nothing match.
Sure. Well, they did a good job on commentary of talking about the Lionheart not being a mere gimmick, about how it really is what Jericho is all about. They always talk about how he's a young, budding star. So pretty good booking to have him go up against a wily veteran in M. Wall Street.
Mm-hmm. Jericho gets a win, like I said, in the post-match segment with Nick Patrick, the attorney, and Jericho. Jericho says that Patrick is a paid employee of the NWO. And then Teddy Long randomly comes out and says that Nick Patrick is a player hater. Not only are you a player hater, and I was like, oh shit, here we go.
Attorney present, and he needs to let him and his attorney know that he's a player hater.
Yeah, Teddy Long gets involved, puts over Jericho in the process, just kind of forwarding the Jericho-Nick Patrick feud that is we're heading toward a match between those two gentlemen at World War III, sadly enough. The main event of the evening was also last week's main event, and that's the reason why we got this one, is Booker T-Lex Luger's return match. Luger walked off last week, as you remember, to find Sting in the rafters this week. No finding Sting. One of my favorite parts about Booker T, and he did it on throughout his career, but he did it more, and it was fresh in his Harlem Heat run, is when the camera's in front of him and he's just talking shit. You know, I'm coming for you, sucker. Yes. Just like last week, just talking shit. Sherry comes out with Booker T, no Colonel Parker, no Stevie Ray. I thought it was a pretty good match. Pretty short, but a decent match. And we see Colonel Parker come out, and Booker T grabs him by the lapels and is, giving him the 1-4. And Luger rolls Booker T up and gets the win. What'd you think of this one?
It was a solid match overall. A lot was made about how Colonel Parker wasn't with them. So when he showed up, you thought, okay, there's going to be some shenanigans here. And sure enough, it cost Booker T. I'm loving so much every aspect of Booker T's wrestling at this point, man. It's so, every week I'm treated to his stuff. Yeah, it's excellent. It's everything he does, man. It's no wonder why he had such a successful singles career going forward.
Right. Yeah, you're completely right. Up next, a commentary segment is what we just got a bunch of talking the rest of the show. A commentary segment, they cut to Bischoff on the phone, says that things aren't going well with Piper's agent. Piper wants to do the match. But he says, the thing about dealing with these superstars is they have management, they have agent, and they're the problem. But that he's going to keep on working to sign the match. So he's kind of throwing a little heat toward Piper here, that Piper's not getting the job done, that he's kind of holding it up. And Heenan and Shivani both bring up the fact that, Hogan's going to use this, the fact that, hey, Piper's scared because he hasn't signed the deal yet. And then Shivani sets up a recap of Piper showing up at Halloween Havoc, and we get that whole deal. I feel like they just wanted to waste time on a lot of stuff here.
I liked the segment, though. I thought there was a lot of realism to it in so many ways. I mean, they talk about how, and you're right, there was a little bit of heat he got on Piper there. One of the things he said was that, no offense to Mr. Piper, but Hogan and Piper both have huge egos. Stars have huge egos, man, and he's speaking the truth there, for sure. It wouldn't surprise me at all in a scenario, taking the kayfabe element out of it, that dealing with somebody like Piper's agent and managers would be a total pain in the butt.
A lot of times you have that situation where in business, in coaching, in wrestling, in athletics, where if you deal with the person one-on-one, it's so much easier than dealing with their subsidiaries. That's why so often these agents and management won't let these teams deal with the players themselves or the coaches themselves. I mean, we see Jimmy Sexton so much in the South, and I know probably the people up north don't know who that is, but he's one of the biggest college football agents out there. And he'll float his client's name that they're leaving, and he'll get these ridiculous extensions and his clients' ridiculous buyouts. And a lot of times the coaches have no idea that he's even doing this. So it does add a little bit of realism, but it also kind of drops the hint that, and then that seed that we're going to see come to fruition as Bischoff's getting closer and closer to the NWO here. And, we're watching it in a retrospective manner, so it's not as so we kind of know it's coming, so you can kind of pick up that, maybe that's why he's dragging his feet here. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that toward the end of the segment, he talks about how he's supposed to be in Toronto to sit down with Roddy Piper, which, from what Bischoff has talked about here, you're sure as a fan that conversation will be a lot easier. It'll be less of a pain in the ass for Bischoff. So, so we're left with that he's going to go to Toronto, sit down with Piper, and maybe Piper can talk some sense into his agents and managers and what have you to make this thing go forward.
After this, we have the NWO segment where Hogan comes out and cuts a promo on Ted Turner and talks about the Cable Ace Awards, and then he calls Piper a sissy, and your rambling Hogan promo, and then we get your Hogan pose down as we go off the air. As you can tell by the energy in my voice talking about this segment, I hated it. I thought that, and I remembered this promo as a kid because I was thinking, what the fuck are the Cable Ace Awards? I've never even heard of them. At this point, I'm 12, okay? So I know what the Grammys are. I know what the Oscars are. I even know what, Golden Globes and that kind of stuff are because you see those commercials and people are performing live and you see movie stars and stuff. But what the fuck are the Cable Ace Awards? And I remember thinking when I was a kid, what is he going to receive an award for? Thunder in Paradise, his fantastic acting in that show? Come on. I just thought it was a nothing segment, and he just rambles on about it. And I guess he thinks that that's going to get him some heat. But I thought this whole segment kind of died on the vine here.
Yeah, it was bad. I hated the little pose down and dancing he would do. I mean, I don't know that there weren't very many human beings at age 10 when I was watching this that I hated more than Hollywood fucking Hogan.
It definitely worked for you to get the heat. And I guess he's getting heat with me too, but it's more of X-Pac heat for me. If I was watching the product now and I had a choice to watch what WWF was putting out as opposed to what Hogan was saying, I would change the channel.
Yeah,
and that's what a lot of people were doing based on reading the old lariats on the site. is that ratings were good as a whole, but they were dipping in the second hour toward the end of the night when there was nothing, the NWO's shenanigans and like beatdowns had kind of waned, and you just got Hogan promos for the last like 15, 20 minutes of the show so people could check out. So, that's the end of the show. That's the end of Nitro. A couple things I wanted to kind of bounce off of you, and we'll get out of here before we take up too much more time. Piper signing with WCW allows him to work limited dates, not unlike most of the NWO guys that are signed to guaranteed contracts. Also gave him 3 movie deals under the Turner umbrella, and he was rumored at this point to go over the Giant at World War III to kind of set up his title match at Starrcade. Now, I know what happens. I'm not going to spoil it for those of you watching it in real time, etc., and we'll kind of talk about it from there, but that's not what happens. He's not going to go over the Giant, so I did spoil it, but that's kind of where it was in reading the old lariats on the site. And Savage is still in negotiations with WCW, and Liz's future is up in the air as well, because if you don't have Randy Savage, what's really the point in having Liz? For the most part. And at this point, it was kind of smart knowledge that WCW's adding the NWO pay-per-view in January. And for those of you, that remember, WCW sold out, or NWO's sold out, was their pay-per-view, but it hadn't become a sure thing yet. So based on the storylines moving forward, the NWO is going to get their own pay-per-view. So...
let me tell you, I'm awaiting that one with bated fucking breath.
Because it's fucking terrible.
Well, that's a tongue-in-cheek comment, sir. It's gonna be fucking like that. I'm already dreading that I'm gonna have to take time out of my already busy ass week to watch a 3-hour pay-per-view that will be masturbatory as hell.
It was awful. And there's so many things. I remember we got it on pay-per-view, and
shit.
So I remember a lot of it, and I just remember being so. I think it was the last WCW pay-per-view I ever got.
you were cured.
I didn't.
You were
didn't
done.
Get another one. They could suck it after that.
Wow. See, and you know what? You can't be the only one.
No, not at all.
You can't be the only one. And I've said this to you before, man. When I stopped watching WCW, this wouldn't be till years after what you and I are covering. When I stopped watching WCW and it started to get shitty and it started to get convoluted and terrible, that wasn't my fault either. If I stopped watching it, there's a reason.
Stayed on as long as you could,
Stayed on as long as I could. Something else I wanted to cover with you before we get out of here. When they're talking to Bischoff and he's in Portland, just after that, we briefly discussed how they rolled the entire Halloween Havoc tape of when Roddy Piper showed up. It seems that WCW is making good and sure that all their fans see this segment. This is the second week in a row they've showed the whole thing, which is not done these days.
It was a good segment and everything, but they wanted to get it over, and I thought they took too much time for it, I guess. But you have to do something in order to keep heat in the feud without Piper being on TV.
Yeah, well, I had wondered, because I was very, very familiar with this whole Halloween Havoc segment and Piper's WCW debut, but I wondered how, because I never watched the WCW pay-per-view. This is how. 2 weeks in a row, they're showing the entire segment. It's solid, like 5 to 7 minutes. So, but I'm such a mark for both Piper and that segment that I sat through the whole thing. I'm sure your ass fast-forwarded, didn't you?
I kind of fast-forwarded through it. Once I knew that they were showing the whole thing, then I fast-forwarded through it, because I wanted to see where they cut off at the pay-per-view, but they never show it. They cut it off before that.
Yeah.
And I kind of hated that, but... what else you got? Nothing?
No, that's it. No, that's it.
All right,
that's
push
it.
social media.
Hush, social media. Hurry the fuck up. No. Being_large on Twitter and Instagram, and on Facebook, Robert McElroy, actor.
For us, At a Combined Weight on Twitter, @acombinedweight@gmail.com. Email us if you have any questions, comments, concerns, PayPal, birthday parties that you'd like Robert to attend, marriages that you would like him to officiate, etc. If you're in the South, I mean, he'll travel. Don't let him tell you that he won't. Again, thanks for clicking the link that brought you here at pwinsiderelite.com. Hope that you're enjoying the extra audio that we are offering you. I know that there's been a lot of people that have subscribed lately to the site because of all the TNA madness that is going on. So if you're new to the program, welcome aboard. Thanks for clicking the link that brought you here. We're hoping that you stay with us moving forward into the wonderful world of WCW Monday Nitro. Without further ado, we're getting out of here. We'll see you next week.
Close that door.